My daughter was in terrible pain after her accident, but this nurse's response made my blood boil. I'll never forget how she smirked while my child suffered. She had broken both legs in a car crash, and the doctors said the next 48 hours would be crucial. The pain medicine they gave her only lasted 4 hours, and when it wore off, she would cry so hard she could barely breathe. Her whole body would shake, and it broke my heart watching her suffer. I started setting alarms 30 minutes before each dose. The night nurse would always say, "I'll get to it," but wouldn't move from her phone. My daughter would squeeze my hand so tight, tears rolling down her face, begging for help. I felt so helpless watching the clock tick by. One night, the medicine was an hour late. I found the nurse laughing in the break room, scrolling through social media. When I reminded her about the medicine, she rolled her eyes and said, "She's young. She can handle it." She didn't even look up from her phone. I lost it. I told her, "That's my 16-year-old daughter sobbing in pain while you're watching TikToks." I marched straight to the supervisor's office at 3 a.m., shaking with anger. The supervisor checked the records and found out the nurse had been forgetting doses for other patients too. She was fired on the spot. Our new nurse was amazing. She never made my daughter wait a single minute for her medicine, and even brought her favorite ice cream to help cheer her up. Sometimes I still think about how many other patients suffered because of that nurse's laziness. Being in pain is terrible, but being ignored when you're in pain is even worse.
I made $500 by accidentally becoming a Wedding Crasher's wingman. I was working as a waiter at this fancy hotel when this guy in a perfectly tailored suit walks up to the bar. He looked nervous and kept checking his phone. Something felt off, so I kept an eye on him. The way he scanned the room reminded me of those nature shows where a zebra knows it's in the wrong territory. He ordered a drink and whispered, "I'm not supposed to be here." I laughed and said, "Yeah, I figured. Which wedding?" He pointed to the Hamilton reception and admitted he was trying to impress a girl he met last week who said she'd be here. His voice had that desperate "please help me" tone. Instead of busting him, I had an idea. "Order the salmon," I told him. "The chicken is dry, and the bride's family is sitting on the left. They're all wearing blue. The father of the bride loves talking about his boat collection." His eyes lit up. He slipped me a $50 and said, "Keep them coming." Throughout the night, I fed him little details about the wedding while he smoothly worked the room like he belonged there. Near the end of the night, he came back grinning. The girl had given him her number. He handed me another $450 and said, "For the best service ever." 2 years later, I got a generous tip while working another wedding. I looked up and there he was, this time as the actual groom. He winked and said, "Still ordering the salmon." The bride next to him was the same girl from that night. Sometimes the craziest decisions lead to the best stories. I never knew my dad was dangerous until the day of our special trip. I was 10, and he picked me up from school with a surprise. We were going to Disney World, just me and him. I was so excited, I didn't think twice when he said not to tell Mom. He seemed different that day. Actually nice, buying me ice cream and letting me pick music in the car. But instead of going to the airport, we drove for hours. When I asked about Disney, he just said it was a surprise route. The motels got worse each night. My dad kept changing his phone, and I wasn't allowed to use it. After a week, I noticed we were living in a dirty apartment, and Disney was never mentioned again. I started having nightmares, but I was too scared to tell him I wanted to go home. One morning, while he was sleeping, I snuck to the apartment office to use their phone. I remembered Mom's number by heart. She made me practice it every day. My hands were shaking as I pressed the buttons. But before I could finish dialing, Dad burst in, face red with anger. That's when a maintenance worker saw my dad grabbing my arm. She must have noticed something wrong because minutes later, police cars surrounded the building. Turns out Mom had been searching for weeks. Dad had lost custody, and this was his scary plan to keep me forever. Now I'm back home with Mom, and Dad's in jail. But I'll never forget how a fun Disney trip turned into the scariest month of my life. Sometimes I still wake up thinking I'm back in that dirty apartment.
I let my twin sister live with me after her divorce until I found her diary. My sister Jen and I were inseparable growing up. We finished each other's sentences and shared everything. When her marriage fell apart, I didn't hesitate to offer her my spare room. At first, things were great. We stayed up late talking like teenagers again, and I felt like I had my best friend back. She seemed to be healing, slowly getting her spark back. Then I started noticing weird things. My boyfriend Tom would visit less. When he did come over, Jen would dress nicer and laugh too hard at his jokes. I ignored the red flags, telling myself she was just trying to feel good again after her divorce. One day, while cleaning her room, she was always messy, I found her diary under the bed. I knew I shouldn't read it, but something felt wrong. The pages were filled with entries about Tom, how they'd been texting when I wasn't around, how she thought he was meant for her, not me. The last entry talked about how she was making progress, and that soon he'll realize we belong together. I confronted her that night, showing her the diary. I expected denial or tears. Instead, she smiled and said, "We always shared everything growing up. Why not him too?" I packed her bags myself. As I watched her drive away, I realized some twins aren't meant to share a life forever. Tom never knew why she left. Some betrayals are too painful to explain even to those we love. I sometimes wonder if she's out there, planning her next move. That thought keeps me up at night more than I'd like to admit.
I took my daughter to dance class, and the moms got me banned for being creepy until they learned the truth. When my wife deployed overseas, I became a full-time dad to our 4-year-old Emma. She begged to take ballet, so I signed her up at the local dance studio. The first day, I sat with other parents to watch. 2 moms moved their chairs away, others kept glancing and whispering. Even my sister-in-law pretended not to know me. I focused on Emma, twirling in her pink tutu, beaming with joy. After class, the studio owner pulled me aside. She said moms were uncomfortable with a man watching young girls dance and suggested I wait in my car. My sister-in-law stood behind her, nodding. I showed her a photo of Emma and me, then pulled up my wife's military service page. The owner's face turned red, but I wasn't done. I explained how my daughter cried for dance lessons for months, how I worked extra shifts to afford her tutu, how her mom video calls every week to hear about dance class. Then I asked my sister-in-law if she'd tell her deployed sister why Emma quit dancing. The next day, the studio posted new rules. All parents must be allowed to watch their children. Those uncomfortable could wait in their cars. 3 moms pulled their kids out, but 5 new families joined, including 2 other dads. My sister-in-law apologized and now sits with me during class. Now Emma has even more friends to dance with, and I get to watch every single twirl just like her mom would want.
The first time I held my baby was in a courtroom. For years, my wife and I tried everything. After 3 miscarriages that shattered our hearts, we spent our 10th anniversary in a fertility clinic instead of Paris. Specialists across 3 states, experimental treatments, our savings depleting with each appointment. Hope became a currency we couldn't afford anymore. Then my sister called. She'd become pregnant at 19. "I'm not ready," she whispered through tears. Without hesitation, we offered to adopt. For 7 months, we prepared a nursery, chose a name, attended her appointments. 2 weeks before the due date, she disappeared. No calls, no texts. The hospital confirmed she'd delivered a healthy girl, then checked out against medical advice. I hired a private investigator who found her 3 states away. She'd reconnected with the father, convinced they could make it work. 6 months of legal battles followed. My sister refused mediation. Her boyfriend's family had money, attorneys. Today, the judge delivered his verdict. As my sister sobbed in the back row, he cited her history of instability, the boyfriend's previous drug charges, and our proven commitment. The bailiff placed my niece, now legally my daughter, in my trembling arms. My sister's eyes met mine across the courtroom, filled with both sorrow and understanding. She nodded once, knowing her daughter would grow up loved.